Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight. Hello and welcome to Historic Hindsight. I'm John. That's Tom. Tom, today we have a special animal segment today. Is that right?
That's right. I'm excited about it. So today, Johnny, I got a little bit of history mixed in with some animals for you. We're going to talk about the Great Emu War.
The what?
The Great Emu War. It is a time when a country decided that, you know what, fuck those birds.
So this was like
they're gonna
a
go
super ancient war, I assume.
Not quite super ancient. Just post World War One. So a little before. This was an intro. This is actually really what kicks off World War II. This is the start of the whole shindig. Yeah, this is it.
This got us into it.
Yeah.
So the Great Emu War was between who?
So Australia, the nation of Australia, decided that it'd be a great idea to take on its national bird, the emu. So it'd be like the United States shooting down all the bald eagles.
We're going to declare war on bald eagles.
On bald eagles.
It
is. I mean, this bird is so ingrained in Australian culture that it's actually on their national seal, and of course it is their national bird.
And they go to war with it.
And they go to war with it.
All right, what got us to this point?
Okay, so after World War One, we got a lot of returning soldiers coming home from the war, and they need somewhere to go. They need something to do. There's not a lot of jobs at this point, right immediately after the war, because the industry that was built around making machine guns, we don't have to make machine guns anymore.
Right.
So you go back to
this is a similar type thing that happens everywhere. You get the men back from the war, and then now what are they going to do?
Now what are they going to do? What are you going to do with all the women that once were in these factories? So the factories have to transition back into making automobiles as opposed to tanks and all that stuff. And so there's not a lot of jobs to be had.
Okay.
But you don't want your returning soldiers to be homeless. You don't want. This is a time when we actually tried to help the old soldier. We honored them as opposed to what we do now. So these returning soldiers, they were given actually a lot of land to farm, very cheap, subsidized property on the west coast of Australia.
The great farmland of Australia.
The great farmland of Australia. It was actually in the Western District, in the Campion District. Prior to World War One, this area was relatively uninhabited. Ignore the indigenous population.
Right. Well, relatively uninhabited by people that looked like us.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
is really what that means.
The white Europeans, they weren't over there yet. And the land, it's mostly dry. It's not really the most ideal, suitable for farming. So they have to do massive infrastructure rebuilding. They have to build, wells and water.
And they're going to be limited in what they can farm. And
yeah, exactly. But after the war, there's all this land that's available. Seems like a great idea. Let's go out there and farm. And so they do. They start buying land up in bulk, start farming. The government promises to subsidize the farms, including purchasing. They were wanting wheat because wheat was one of their biggest exports to the world.
Okay.
Specifically, actually, to the United States of all places. We were buying up a ton of Australian wheat.
Like
why, I don't know, because we grow it here. But for some reason, we were all about buying Australian wheat cheaper. Who knows?
Sure. Yeah.
And so the government promised to subsidize said wheat. Said we'll pay you for it if you grow wheat. They were really pushing it.
Yeah.
They didn't really actually pay the farmers what they said they were going to.
They said they were
going to force them.
You got to take their word on that.
To force them to go. It doesn't take that long for farmers to realize, or for the ex-soldiers, that this isn't really a profitable venture. So a lot of them started to leave. Government, again, it's this weird. We need the farmland for the exports. We need them to be doing this, so we'll promise them even more money to convince the few to stay. So that's where we're at. The Western Campion region. It's now farming territory for ex-soldiers. But there's a tiny little hiccup here.
Okay,
Johnny.
yeah. So far, there's nothing that would lead me to declare war on an animal.
So the national bird of Australia is the emu, and there are apparently 20,000 of these guys.
They're migratory birds.
Migratory birds. They typically spend the winter along the coast. and for the spring they go into the western Campion
Right.
region
Yeah.
for
Fantastic
food,
creatures.
and then around winter they go right back to the coast
Yeah.
for the warmth and for easy access to food.
Yeah. I feel like everybody probably knows what an emu is, but if not, it's an ostrich. Essentially, it's a smaller ostrich. It's but not real small. They're still up to 6 feet tall. They still weigh 99 pounds. They have 3 toes with claws. They can run 31 miles an hour. They're basically walking, living, breathing dinosaurs.
Direct descendants of like raptors or something.
Yeah,
like that,
yeah, they're crazy. So fantastic beasts, and and a herd of 20,000 of them, I imagine, can do some damage.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it's some more interesting facts for emus. You would think that there are some benefits to these birds as well. I mean, they're good for leather.
Oh yeah,
They're good for meat. They're
Oil.
a great source of oil. So there's a lot of benefits to these. Like maybe instead of just farming wheat, maybe we should farm
Right,
some of these.
Get some livestock to go as well.
Some of these emus. I'm reminding.
Except for the fact that it's your national bird, and that's a
Yeah,
hard sell.
but
I mean, could you imagine going to the store and getting like bald eagle eggs?
to be fair though, I bet they're delicious. I don't know.
They eat a lot of shitty food.
A
Though.
bald
They eat a
eagle
lot of
scrambled.
they eat a lot
scrambled
of seafood and stuff. And that's gonna flavor
taint
it.
the meat.
Yeah.
So another interesting odd fact for emus. This is not our sponsor, but the St. Louis Zoo is free. So if you're in that area of the United States, by all means, go to the St. Louis Zoo.
Fantastic.
It's a fantastic zoo. So I was there with my family a few months back. And we were out on the plain area, looking at the animals out there. There's, some giraffes. There's a little dick for you guys that don't know. It's basically a little tiny antelope.
It's a tiny deer.
It's a tiny deer with little spiky horns,
Yeah.
and this little cute dick. He's sitting there by a tree, rubbing his antlers up and down the tree.
Right.
Everybody's crowded around the little dick because he's adorable and we love him and he's cute. And,
and anytime you can see, I mean, you don't see animals doing stuff a lot. So if one comes up close, like
it
draws a crowd.
Yeah, it draws a crowd. So it's true a crowd. And over in the distance, there's this emu, and he apparently wants some attention too. So he starts strutting over like emus do, and they apparently like when they, I don't know if it's when they feel threatened or what, but they puff up. Like
with any birds, any type of animal, it's you make yourself big as a show of dominance or a show of to intimidate or to show off.
So this bird, he's making himself big. He's strutting over. He's like, hey, look at the crowd. Like, look at me. Look what I can do. Look how big I am. He's strutting over, and he's looking at the dick, and he goes up to the dick, this poor little baby dick, and he goes, guess what? I want you to see my dick. No. And so the emu's sitting there, and out of it, I thought he was hatching an egg. I thought it was a she. I thought maybe it was laying an egg because around its what I would consider its butt region, the red thing starts opening up.
Yeah,
and
I don't know. I know most birds only have one exit point.
Yeah, so
maybe
yeah,
it's the same. I don't know if it's the same for emus or not.
I'm not.
But that's a reasonable thought.
That's a reasonable thought. Yeah, yeah, and I'm not a biologist or zoologist. No, I know Zinkus about most animals, and I know Zinkus about emus. So when I see something opening up around the butt region, I'm thinking it's laying an egg. Well, that's awesome, cool, great. It's laying an egg. That's gonna be
what
exciting.
A great experience this is about to be.
But
beautiful, the bringing in life.
Instead of an egg, coming out of this emu, this weird red tentacle thing emerges.
What?
It's a cork. The best way I can describe it is a corkscrew tentacle. It's red, it's slimy, and it's winding its way, and this is coming out in front of the poor little dick as he's sitting there with his arms a flailing, and it takes all about 4 seconds from it being out for me to kind of click what it is.
And you're like, oh, that's an emu dick.
And now I know what an emu dick looks like. But it gets worse because not only did it come out, but about 6 seconds after it came out, a bunch of white stuff shot out of it.
No.
And I don't know if that was bird poop, because when birds poop it's white, it's weird, or if that was emu spunk. I really don't know which one it was.
If it was marking.
And it traumatized. I think my poor kids are watching this. They're giggling and having the time of their life. But me and my wife were traumatized by this. Today she still talks about the traumatizing experience at the St. Louis Zoo. And I wound up. We went out to the parking lot for lunch because it's a free zoo and I'm not about ready to spend any money, so I packed lunches.
Of course. Yeah. Why would you support this free zoo at all?
well, you know,
that's giving you this very educational
it was a
experience.
very educational experience. I think we did actually buy like a soda or something from there. But anyways, we went out for lunch and had our picnic, and I had to look up about emu and ostriches' penises and how.
I assume you used incognito mode,
Uh,
or are you getting like
no, I'm
ostrich
just
penis ads now?
I'm getting yeah, I'm getting all kinds of fun ads on Facebook. Um, and I learned that it's one of the only animals that it doesn't actually have cartilage in the penis. It is just
Okay.
like hydraulic fluid basically filled. And
So
that
it's
white
just
stuff is what you would expect
it
it
is
to
was
be.
yeah.
It is both what fills and creates life, so to speak.
Well,
So
what a fantastic
so
beast.
now I want you all to picture this fantastic, beautiful beast, and if you haven't already Googled it, you know you're going to.
Oh God.
So
Turn
Google,
incognito mode on.
yeah. So Google what it looks like, and this is what you're faced up with. So you have these 20,000 migratory birds on the
Against
on the Campion region against some
against
farmers.
against the entire well against the Australian army, right?
Well,
Because
yeah,
so the
yeah,
farmers have the problem, right?
yeah, and we'll get there. So you got these
Okay.
20,000 emus, and before this time period, obviously that region wasn't the most fertile for food for them. So like I said, they the winter they would go to the coast, and then they would go inland when the food was available.
Yeah, migratory animals
Yeah.
follow food. That's why
So
they move, or for breeding
so they're
purposes.
inland after the farmers get themselves established. Around late 1920s, early 1930s to get themselves established. And what's this? There is plentiful amounts of wheat and food
Guys,
now.
I'm not sure if last time we came here there was this much food. I think something happened.
But now there's food aplenty, and oh my, there's watering holes where there used to not be watering holes, and there's food, and the breeze is coming up here. Oh, it's much warmer over here.
Oh, man.
Oh yeah, it's nice in the summer.
These birds must
the
have thought
winter,
they
yeah.
died and went to heaven.
Oh yeah, so they fucking love. Apparently, that's the other thing I learned. Emus love wheat.
I mean,
and they're gobbling the shit out of this stuff. They're having a good time. And so instead of
endless food.
and now that there's endless food there, instead of having to go back to the coast there in the winter, they're just
Like, nah,
hanging
fuck
out.
that.
They're like, yeah, we don't need to walk. Oh, that's a far way.
Yeah,
like,
there's not
screw
fields
this.
and fields of free food and water over there.
We've got free food and water over here. We're staying with it. So, in October-ish of 1932, the farmers decide, look, we've had enough. You're not paying us for this damn wheat to begin with that we're growing.
Yeah.
What little we are able to get rid of, you know, that to grow, you're not buying, and what's left of us losing it from the emus is being eaten by the emus, so we're not even having wheat. Also, unfortunately, at the same time in the world, there's that little thing that happened in the United States.
Yeah,
where,
what was around? Yeah, what was
where we after World War I, we decided that we'd buy everything on credit.
Sure,
And
which
so
worked well.
Which worked well, and
Stock market was booming.
And then the stock market was booming because it was booming. Everybody was buying and buying and buying. There's never going to be a ceiling. Forget about artificial inflation. And then but you know what? You have that one guy that's like, I don't think this is going to last forever. I'm going to go ahead and sell a couple of shares off, and Black Thursday turns into Black Tuesday, and the stock market tanks. And then, lo and behold, when the stock market tanks, there's not a lot of excess money around. In the United States, we have our own
because everything everybody bought was with not money.
With credit. Everybody lost what money they had and they were buying these stocks on credit.
Yeah.
So which is really wise. And so something you bought on credit.
So that turned out poorly.
Yeah, it turned out real bad. And then at the same time, we have the Dust Bowl in the United States where
that did not help the Great Depression.
It didn't help the Great Depression any, because now a lot of our food sources are going away because we over farmed and over tractored, and now we have an issue there.
Well,
which
that's
you would
okay,
think,
because now we're still going to buy more stuff from Australia, right?
Well, except in order to spur on U.S. agriculture and U.S. industry,
sure.
We got the bright idea to tax everything coming into the United States like 300% more.
So
United
States
you can't
produce anything, and then and then in order to bring in the things that you could produce but are having a hard time because of the Dust Bowl, you're going to make it 3 times more expensive for
Yes.
a bunch of people who already don't have money.
But with the idea that that would make U.S. industry spur up and start producing things.
Which maybe, but it was not producing things because of,
Yeah, for the farmland, yeah.
the weather.
Yeah, that didn't help. But, lo and behold, now the United States isn't buying anything from anybody, which turns our Great Depression into a global depression.
Everybody.
Which really helped out Germany at this time frame, and nothing bad happens after this.
Well,
for them.
yeah. No, yeah, they get a powerful leader
and
to lead their nation to
right out
prosperity.
Of right out of the Depression.
Yeah.
So now Australia, you got these farmers who aren't selling the product that isn't being eaten by the emus, and so something has to happen. So what do? Do you think that they go to the Minister of Agriculture there in
well, yeah, because it's a farming
Australia?
issue, so you would go to the agricultural division of your government and seek aid.
Except, Johnny, who are these farmers?
Oh, they're ex-military.
Yeah. So what is their command structure?
So now they're gonna
go to the Ministry of Defense instead of the Ministry of Agriculture. So they kick this up the line to the Ministry of Defense, which is Sir George Foster Pierce.
And instead of saying, guys, why the fuck are you coming to me? Go over to the agricultural department. He's right down the hall.
Yeah, he's right there.
I could set up a lunch with you.
Yeah.
Talk to him about your problem. He didn't say that. He said,
no. He says, I think we can come up with something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
To give you a little bit background on Sir George Foster Pierce, he's an Australian politician in the Western Province, which is what you'd expect is where they're at. He's there from 1901 to 1938. So career-long politician. It's good to see other countries staying with that trend like we do. He was the leader of the National Labour Party. Not to be confused with National Socialist.
Yeah, please don't confuse it with
that. Don't. They're not the same thing, but they're kind of the same. They're both a little fascist, but whatever. He was a prospector and carpenter prior to being a politician. During World War I, he was pro-conscription, so he's the guy who says, you know what, we need more soldiers. Instead of my son volunteering, I'm going to force your children to fight.
Yeah,
he's that guy.
So this makes sense why he would take on this responsibility.
Yeah, he feels bad for sending them out to die and against their will, so he's gonna listen to them. So they get this great idea, like, look, there's 20,000 emus, we're all ex-soldiers. Why don't we handle this like a military operation? We'll get a couple of machine guns, go out there, have a blast.
Yeah, how hard can it be?
How hard can it be? So
wait, a couple machine guns?
Yeah, well, so what happens is Sir George Foster Pierce goes to the Australian Parliament and comes up with the idea. Okay, look, we don't want obviously these citizens having machine guns. That's kind of a bad idea.
Which were ex-military anyway.
Which were ex-military anyways. You know what the hell they were doing, and but Australia is the UK kingdom. They never really liked the idea of citizens having weapons, let alone machine guns. So
typically criminals aren't allowed weapons inside of their penitentiaries. So
and Australia's a kind of
giant jail for England
for a little bit of its history. Yeah. So so the idea is that we'll use the Royal Australian Artillery. So not the entire Australian
army. So they don't get the whole
army
army for this.
We're going to use
because it's emus.
It's emus. We don't need to do that's ridiculous. So we'll use the Royal Australian Artillery, and we're going to arm them up with 2 Lewis guns. So if you're not familiar from home, a Lewis gun was actually a very good light machine gun during World War I, probably the best of its kind. It was used in a lot of trench raids, that kind of stuff, because it was light, mobile. It's a machine gun.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'll give them 10,000 rounds. And we'll send them out there to handle this.
And so, was there an official declaration of war?
Not
an official like.
Not what you would think of as an official. Like it's not like America. Like we go on and we
have to make an announcement.
Yeah, we make an announcement. We're on the news and we say, we have declared war on the emus. They've not gone quite to that extent. But to kind of give a little bit of a background here on what the official plan was again, it was the Royal Australian Artillery with 2 Lewis guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. The farmers agreed that in order to do this, they would have to pay for the military to do this, pay for the transportation down into the Western Campaign region
Okay.
or Campaign region. They would have to house the soldiers
Right.
while this was going on, and they would have to pay for the ammunition.
So the soldiers who were tasked with farming land that wasn't. Oh, I guess they got it going. They got a bunch of wheat, but they were tasked with this. Sent out there, told that they were going to buy wheat from them. Didn't buy wheat from them, and now they're saying you're not buying wheat from us. The rest of our wheat's getting eaten, so we can't sell any. So we don't have any money. We need your help.
Yeah, and
they're
we're
saying,
starving.
We're happy to
our
help
wheat's
you.
Gone. Yeah.
You just have to pay for everything.
Yeah, you have to pay for the trucks to come down and the ammunition for the guns, and then you have to let the soldiers sleep in your house.
But don't worry, we might pay you later for.
Well, they're going to pay they're going to pay for the wheat.
Mm-hmm.
They never do.
Wink. Okay, that's okay.
So that's the start. That's the idea behind this. And,
okay.
And again, of course, they're going to the military, or they're going to the government for help, and this is the government's grand plan.
Yeah, that's the solution.
That's the solution. That's what we're going with.
All right. Before we go any further, let's thank our sponsors. This episode of Historic Hindsight is brought to you by Pears Soap. The first step towards lightening the white man's burden is teaching through the virtues of cleanliness. Pears Soap is a potent factor in brightening the dark corners of Earth as civilization advances. While amongst the cultured of all nations, it holds the highest place. It is the ideal toilet soap. Wait, what the fuck?
Historic Hindsight in no way
I think we're going to have to
commends any of our sponsors in this regard. They are not the
sponsorship.
Yeah, they're not the views or opinions of Historic Hindsight.
So this is an actual ad that I found when I was looking up old ads for for this ad read. And yeah, this is just horrifically racist. But this goes back to when you said the whole western bit of Australia was unoccupied. It wasn't. The Aboriginals were there, and
they just needed soap, John.
And so all of these fucking Australian, European whites are saying, guys, if you just had some soap to clean up, it would lighten your skin and you'd be more like us and civilized and cultured instead of, just doing all this shit that you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So if you listeners at home, if you like hearing these historical ads, by all means send us a donation so we don't have to take on sponsors. But if you don't like the vintage, less than orthodox viewed ads, maybe sponsor us.
Yeah, we'll take it.
And we'll take it.
Because then we'll read real ads instead of... God, that's awful.
But
the dark corners of Earth, the civilization.
But it is a soap that was out at this time frame. That was being advertised in this time frame, and it is good. Prior to World War II, this was a very colonial period in the world where a lot of white ran nations were going into not white areas and civilizing.
Civilizing with some quotes around that.
Wink. Yeah. Okay, so here we are. We've got the plans for the Emu War. So who do we put in charge of this? How many men are going to be involved, right?
Yeah.
So we've got
do the battle stats.
Yep. So we've got Major J.P.W. Meredith. He is the commander of the Royal Australian Artillery of the 7th Heavy Battery. So at this point in time in the history, machine guns aren't considered infantry weapons; they're still considered pieces of artillery. So it's an artillery commander that's given it. He's tasked with a small crew of guys. 3 guys to be specific. So the Australian Army is 3 guys.
4.
Well, yeah, 4.
3 under the command.
3 under the command of yeah. So there's 4.
So a total of 4 against the
20,000 emus,
as we stated earlier.
So
20,000.
This isn't looking great.
The numbers don't add up
for the Army. Yeah, right.
The Army has 2 machine guns.
Yes, yeah,
which the emus famously only have their claws and beaks to defend themselves.
Yes, and they do have a camera crew with them as well. It's important to know.
Why?
We want to memorize this grand occasion when we defeat the emus. So we do have a camera crew with us. Okay. So you can add a couple more guys to it, but the main.
But they're not fighting. They're just a documentary crew going on to show the kind of the power I guess, of the Australian Army, and
Yes, yeah. So your army main combatants are Major or GPW Meredith. There is a Sergeant S. McMurray and a Gunner J. O'Halloran.
want to
So
try those again?
Those are your main guys. Yeah, we probably could. We probably could. Okay, so but your main army it's for the battle is comprised of Major GPW Meredith, a Sergeant S. McMurray, and a Gunner J. O'Halloran. Those are your main guys that are actually going down there to do the engagement.
Great.
They're the ones given the machine guns. We got a specific gunner here, so that's his rank. So I'm assuming
he's the one firing the rounds.
Probably going to be the best of this. A little background on GPW Meredith. Like I said, he was a commander of the 7th Heavy Battery. I couldn't find, outside of this war, I couldn't find anything on this guy other than he did attend a military celebration service on September 22nd, 1934 for Lord Milne. Apparently
maybe this was
British,
his first task.
And apparently, apparently it's his first and last, because the only other information I could find was in 1934, and I searched.
He attended a ball or some shit.
Yeah, I searched for like biography information, like where he was born, when he was born, what did he do before the war, anything. Couldn't find nothing. So if you guys at home find any information, please tell me. Yeah. But I won't care 10 minutes after this episode's done. But
yeah, I'm guessing
he'll be known,
scrubbed everything.
He'll be known as the Australian Rambo. So that's our cast of characters. Now we're ready to go. So massive success. The war goes over without a hitch. Everything's wonderful, and we're done, and we can.
So they took care of the problem and had the farming.
Sure did. Well, not so much. So it was originally slated to kick off in October. This war,
right?
But massive rains kind of slowed everybody down, and it doesn't really happen. So our
because what's the rush?
What's the rush?
Like, what are the emus going to do? Like, they don't know they're in war.
Yeah, and it's not like they can take over. I mean, other than eating a little bit more wheat, they're not. You're not at risk for losing your whole country and being invaded by emus and that kind of stuff. So yeah, what's the rush? So we do have our first. We do have our first battle, the Battle of Campion, which took place on November 2nd. So
start of the war, November 2nd.
Start of the war. So we got GPW Meredith. He is located approximately 50 emus in Campion, but he's not able to get close enough to them with the machine guns. They're a little bit far away, and there's 50 birds. They're in a group, so they keep trying to approach. The birds look at him and go, "What the fuck are you guys doing in the bushes?" And they kind of walk away, and they're keeping an equal distance between them and the machine guns.
So they're trying to chase down a small company of emus.
Yeah. Out of the 20,000, they've got 50 cornered ish. Not really,
but not cornered.
But not really cornered because they're walking away. Yeah.
Why won't you engage in battle with us, birds?
We're here. We're ready to go. We've got our flag.
Wait, you can't just run away.
That's not how this works. So Meredith gets frustrated and decides, fuck it, open fire. And literally starts running at the birds with machine guns blaring. And the birds do what they do, and they go, "Oh shit!" And they spread. Noise. They don't clump up. They just run in all different directions. And he's machine gunning everything, and the camera crew's filming everything, and it has to just be laughing at this point. And that's the Battle of Campion.
Meredith, do we have casualty account for this one?
The official report that was given by Meredith to Sir George Foster Pierce was a number of birds dispatched.
A number.
Meredith also
probably a very small number.
It doesn't actually give a number. It just says a number. That's the official report. Meredith yells during the battle at the camera crew to stop filming. Obviously, it's not going the way they want to, and he does in his report home after this battle. He does say that the carrying capacity of the emus is astounding. They can take multiple bullets and still keep running. But as we talked about earlier with him puffing up, I'm really wondering how many rounds actually hit meat.
Yeah.
But even then,
they're a fluffy bird.
Apparently, they can take a couple bullets and still run full speed at you or away from you. in this particular case. But he said if we had a division with the bullet carrying capacity of these birds, we could face any army in the world. So I'm surprised that in World War II the Australians didn't just ride in on emus.
I mean, yeah,
it seemed like that would be the perfect idea.
I've seen ostrich races down in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, where people actually rode ostriches and raced them like you would a horse. It was shorter, but so they could have.
You can
done this.
Yeah, you can hop on them, I'm sure. So the next battle we have is 2 days later on November 4th. It's the Battle of the Dam.
Okay, they had time to recoup.
Yeah,
learn from their
mistakes. Look, okay, running at them like Rambo.
Turns out they just turns out
they are faster running than we are, and you can't hit shit with a machine gun when you're running.
Yeah.
So he comes up with a great battle plan. He's found 1,000 emus are spotted by a dam. So he actually learns that that's one of their major watering holes. So he sets up camp the night before, lays in wait to trap them and wait. So the order's given: wait till the emus come within point blank range of the guns before we open up.
Wait till you see the whites of their eyes.
Yep. So camera crew's there, catching everything, ready to go. It's the morning of November 4th. The emus have come within machine gun range. Rolling. And the order's given: open fire when it's point blank range. So both machine guns jam immediately. And again, for you at home who don't know a Lewis machine gun, it is a phenomenal piece of equipment. It's relatively super reliable, not in comparison to today's terms in regards to firearms, but back then it was a very reliable machine gun. It's an early machine gun, but it was very reliable. But it had a very bad flaw in it that if there was a failed cartridge extraction or a failed shot, you could double feed very easily, where you get one live cartridge in front of another live cartridge trying to get shaved into the same chamber. It's a problem, and there's no easy way to unjam the gun, so you basically have to take the whole thing apart. And
and guess
so
what?
When it jams, it's done until you have a lull in the battle and can fix it.
The birds aren't gonna just wait around.
And the birds aren't going to wait around. And oh my God, they don't. They instantly when the guns open up, they start running away.
They heard like 3 shots and they're like, oh shit, I'm out of here.
We're done. It was a little bit more of a successful battle, even though the guns both jammed right off the bat. 12 emus were officially killed. We do have our first casualty report that has a specific number, and it's 12.
12.
Okay.
Out of 1,000 that were at the dam.
At the dam,
right?
Yeah. High casualty percentage there. We're doing good. Don't worry, Johnny.
I mean, that's half of them probably just like broke their leg trying to run away in the in fear.
Yeah, I mean, look, no war goes off successfully within the first couple of weeks. There's always little hiccups. There's always some obstacles along the way. It's a learning experience before you can really kick it off. So let's not. We're not done yet, Johnny.
The emus may have won the battle.
They've won a couple of battles, but we still have a war to fight.
All right.
So over the next couple of days,
fix their guns.
We've got the guns. They're no longer jammed, and we can move on. So Meredith comes up with a great plan. Look, we've got trucks with us, right? So why don't we can't outrun the emus, but the trucks, they can match the speed of an emu. So why don't we take these Lewis machine guns and mount it on top of the truck?
Yeah.
And drive at them and shoot.
I can think of about 1,000 reasons why you should not do that.
Well, I'm telling you, this is a brilliant plan, and it's gonna. I'm Meredith, Johnny, and I'm telling you, this is what we're doing.
All right,
it's gonna work. Camera crew,
get the camera crew.
This is your time to shine because we've got it. This is our battle. This is the one. So he does that. Meredith puts a Lewis gun on top of the truck. Finds a group of emus. I don't have a specific number on this particular engagement, how many emus were estimated there, but he does find a group of emus, hauls ass, truck going full blast, machine gun going full blast, and he rolls the truck.
You would think having a truck on uneven terrain and then adding the weight of a human and some machine guns on top of it
it's going to go over
would increase stability and you'd be fine.
Not in this case. In this case, it didn't work. And camera crew's there filming the whole thing.
Thank goodness.
And Meredith gets up out of the wreckage and looks at the camera crew and all pissed off again and says, I'm going to shove that camera right up your ass. So it's one of his many fun quotes. And so this pretty much concludes the first campaign. of the War of the Emu, or the Great War, or the Great Emu War. I mean, so by November 8th, we fired 2,500 rounds of ammunition.
A quarter of the way done with what they were allotted, right? 10,000 was what they were given.
Yep, we're a quarter of the way through. 50 birds have been confirmed
Okay,
killed.
not great, but you're not looking to wipe them all out.
And he estimates 200 to 500 wounded. Again,
where does he get this estimation?
I don't. This is his war report. I don't know.
Is this from the veterinarian reports for the birds coming into animal hospitals?
Yeah, and he says, the 200 to 500 wounded birds are expected to die.
Eventually, I think all of the birds are expected to die.
Yeah, all 20,000 eventually are going to die. Whether they die immediately from these gunshot wounds or not, who knows? Obviously, the Australian media is having a field day with this. The coverage isn't positive. It is. I'm sure the film crew had ample opportunity to send it back to the headquarters of watching them roll a truck and just make gigantic buffoons of themselves. Wow. And so it's not great. Meredith reports that the emus have their own command structure. That they've learned their ways, so to speak. Where the emu, you'd have one.
They haven't learned anything. They run away from danger.
I'm just telling you what his report is. Okay, he says that there is always usually a large plumed emu that operates as the lookout, and whenever they would get close, would caw, and the other emus would run away.
Important to know that emus can be heard from up to 2 kilometers away. So that little lookout is looking out for a whole big area.
Lots of emus, and they're doing their job, and they are running away. He also compares the emus to the Zulu warriors because of their fierce fighting tactics while wounded. Again, if you at home that don't know about the Zulu warriors, that was a war that Britain had against an indigenous African tribe that went so well for the British. These guys could take a couple of shots and still stabby you with their spears.
Yeah.
So, but the emus, it's not like they're getting wounded and running at.
No, they're fleeing.
They're fleeing. And so, but the good news is the casualty report for the Australian army is zip.
Well, so far so good.
So far, even though we rolled the truck.
I was going to say,
normally
you'd
died.
be like, yeah, of course not. But there were ample opportunities.
there were
when you're rolling a truck with a machine gun on the top.
There were ample opportunities for injuries. Yes, and so they get recalled. So go figure, right? So Sir Foster Pierce does the reasonable thing and says, "Okay, look, this campaign didn't work. Why don't you guys come home?"
Yeah.
So they do get recalled. But we still have 20,000 emu. I'm sorry, like 19,950 emus still running around eating some wheat. Yeah. So they still go up to, these farmers are still going to Sir Foster Pierce and saying, hey, look, you've not solved the problem. We've already paid for these 10,000 rounds of ammunition. You still have some of that left. Get your asses back down here and start round 2.
Yeah, all you've done is made an ass out of yourself. Come, please continue to do that so you can solve our problem.
So do you think Parliament's like, all right, look, we got to stop this shit. This didn't work. Stop it, or come up with some other battle plan or anything else like that?
You have to reconsider.
No, he goes, okay, I hear you. We didn't do a good enough job. We're going to go ahead and send the same guys down.
But now they have experience. They've learned something.
They do. So this starts the second campaign of the Great Emu Wars. So it resumes on November 13th. So basically we have a week-long ceasefire. So which it was
nice of the emus to agree to.
Yeah, but it's even funnier the fact that so we have our first campaign. It fails on November 8th. They go back and get recalled. I imagine it takes at least a good day to drive 1932 trucks to the capital of Australia. From the Campion region. I imagine.
Australia is not small.
No, it's not. And these are trucks that are going a whole whopping 40 miles an hour.
Well, right. Yeah, I'm guessing the road conditions weren't swell.
No. So within just under a week, they have the time to be recalled, the time for the farmers to bitch, and say, "Where the hell are you guys at? Why are these emus still here?"
Why did you leave without doing your job?
And the time for them to go, new battle plan, we're sending them back down. So the campaign resumes on November 13th, and we have our first battle of the second campaign, which shows somewhat of some success. We do the whole hiding in the bushes, waiting for the emus to get close. The report says 40 emus have been killed. And it actually was fairly successful. Out of the 100 that were there, 40 of them got there. So we're almost out to 50% casualties at that point. We got there. No machine guns jammed, no buffoonery. The camera crew's there, but they weren't filming.
Maybe Meredith should have not told them to stop filming so many times.
Well, they were filming other wildlife around. They just weren't filming these assholes trying to shoot down the emus anymore. They basically made it like a little wildlife special. Oh, look at this cute little butterfly in this flower, as opposed to look at whatever those jackasses are doing. But multiple campaigns multiple battles keep going on. It's not really one specific one. They just start doing the same tactic over and over and over again. And by December 2nd, it was estimated that about 100 emus were being killed per week. Not great, but not awful. And by December 10th, Meredith was recalled again by Pierce, and Pierce went to Parliament claiming victory over the emus.
We win
again. So 100 a week. By December 2nd, December 10th is like another week away. So you killed 200 more birds.
Yeah,
but it's victory. We got them. They're on the retreat. They will no longer eat our wheat. So here's the aftermath statistics for us, for those of you applying at home.
Because that was the end of the war. He claimed victory.
He goes to Parliament, and
Parliament said no.
Yeah, Parliament. Well,
you lost.
We'll hear the statistics, and we'll let you decide what Parliament decides here. So, out of the 10,000 rounds that were issued, 9,860 rounds of ammunition were expended. Which, to be fair, for those Lewis guns, that's if nothing else, this is a endurance test for those two guns.
Well,
which they didn't do great at, because there was a day where they
those two guns.
Yeah. It was an endurance test for them.
That's all it was.
But it's probably why the Lewis gun wasn't in wide use in World War II. Because it failed at the Emu War.
Because it failed the Emu. This was a dry run.
I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say that's the only reason why the Lewis gun was shelved for frontline use. Out of those 9,860 rounds that were expended, exactly, which I find this number to be a little suspicious, but exactly 986 emus were confirmed killed. So 10 bullets per bird.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like the greatest use of ammunition, because by that round we would have had to have 200,000 rounds of ammunition to kill the 20,000 birds. Yeah, that's a lot of ammunition. But it's still it's better than in World War I. I mean, the kill ratio for bullets to person killed in World War I was way
but you were fighting other people though.
That was shooting at you back. Yeah. But see there, that's a double chance to get hit, because both sides are shooting at each other.
But they're both hiding in trenches. One's not standing in the middle of an open field.
Yeah, you think the count to bird ratio should be a little bit. I mean, if they would have just given them some Enfield rifles and told them, hey, take your time and do a quick, like a methodical, slow aimed shot, you would have had a better rate than that.
Yeah, give 10 people hunting rifles and let them loose. Like, they'd be able to take out many more.
Would be better. But Meredith does estimate that 25 emus were wounded and expected to die.
2,500.
2,500, yeah. Again, how did he come up with that number? I'm calling bullshit on it. I think he's trying to pad his stats. There's no way to prove it.
He's padding his
because
stats.
You'd think there would be some...
They're not getting injury reports anywhere.
No, and you'd think there would be some farmers going out and go, hey, you guys left 1,000 birds just lying out here
10
dead.
10 more dead that I just came across.
No.
Yeah, this guy's full of shit.
So the Parliament rules it an absolute failure.
Yeah.
They say this is never going to happen again. We will never authorize this again. You guys are assholes. Come up with a different plan.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 3 times, not going to do that.
Believe it or not, the farmers, again, asked the Ministry of Defense for assistance doing the exact same thing in 1934, 1943, and 1948. They make 3 separate claims for military assistance, which
Did they
the
give
Parliament they denied it.
Oh, well,
But
see, they told him.
And this shows you just how bad it is, though, because 1943 they're asking for assistance. They're in the middle of World War II,
Yeah.
and in 1943 it's not going exactly the greatest for Australia against the Japanese.
Okay,
I mean,
so this war was a failure.
yeah. So and
were they able to solve their emu problem?
Partially. I mean, no. This is still actually an issue today. Like, there are still a crap ton of emus that do get into the farms today.
Sure.
But in 1934, they introduced a bounty system in which the government would pay you to bring in a dead bird.
There you go.
Yeah, that
problem solved.
Exactly what we talked about. Couple of farmers, give them some rifles.
Yeah, tell them they're allowed to kill them.
We're good to go.
We'll give you money for it because you're not giving them money for the wheat. They're growing.
No,
so
you're not.
They're
But you're giving money for the birds.
Now they'll go make an honest living hunting emus.
This was far more successful of a program, with the government ultimately paying out 57,034 bounty claims.
I'm sorry, how many?
57,034 bounty claims.
And they were having a problem with how many emus?
20,000 emus, Johnny. So you might ask yourself, those numbers don't add up.
Where did the 2.5 times the original amount come from?
The farmers realized once they got paid for a dead emu, maybe we'll just fence said emus in, let them have their tentacle thing come out and produce more emus, and we'll just farm the emus and sell them to the government.
We'll just have emu livestock farms, and these suckers will pay us for them.
And they sure did exactly that. Eventually, what winds up being the success for how they do it today, there's a great barrier wall. Basically, there's just barrier fencing all over the western. Yeah, that stops them from coming.
The modern invention of a livestock fence?
Yeah, an exclusion barrier fence. The United Kingdom actually protested this war when it was going on and afterwards.
Why?
Because they claimed that it was an attempt at mass destruction of a rare bird.
There's 20,000 of them.
But they're isolated to that. Continent.
But they can clearly be bred and mass produced in a short amount of time.
To produce
from 20 to 60,000 of them in a matter of years.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the Great Emu War.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Historic Hindsight. Every week we take a look at some of the major events that took place during this week in a segment that we like to call This Week in History.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
So in This Week in History, we have the first major thing is the Third Iceland Cod Wars. Started in January 7th, 1976. So on this day, the British naval frigate HMS Andromeda collided with the Icelandic gunboat Por inside the 200-mile exclusion zone for foreign travelers. So, and foreign travelers. So at this time, Iceland was like, look, 200 miles around us, that's our fishing zone. Nobody can have it. Britain, being Britain, said,
we'll go wherever the hell we want.
Wherever the hell we want. I'm gonna go fish cod wherever I want. Both sides in this particular engagement claimed that they had legal rights to the waters, and both sides claimed that it was the other boat's fault. So basically, you have two military boats that collide with each other, playing a game of chicken, and nobody backed off.
Well, and you have Britain being in water they're not supposed to be in, saying, no, it's not our fault that we ran into them.
It's their fault for
being where we wanted to be.
They speared us. So Britain claims that Iceland has no rights to unilaterally enforce a 200-mile limit until it becomes official law, because it hadn't been official law at this point. Iceland pointed out that 100 nations, including Britain, actually agreed to the fishing zone in 1974 at the Law of the Sea conference.
Yeah, but that was years ago. You don't expect them to remember that.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Fuck that. You don't have the right to enforce that. So that's the start of the Third Icelandic Cod Wars. This is probably something that's going to become an episode on its own at a later date, because the idea of two military boats crashing into each other is just absurd. And then it's all over fishing rights, and this is the third one
Yeah.
And then you have England who, yeah, we agree to it. No, we don't
course.
agree to it.
Which is throughout history is a theme.
Yeah,
That
for
England has.
especially, yeah, for the UK especially, yes. So our next big thing is Lyndon B. Johnson. He declares war on poverty on January 8th, 1964, and from that date, poverty in the United States has been no more.
I'm so glad that we won that war,
Yep.
and so quickly too, and
Yeah.
efficiently. I mean, aside from the war on drugs, I would say that that's our most successful war.
Yeah, we have no poverty rate in the United States.
It's
Everybody
unbelievable.
has bags of cash,
The amount of
free houses.
the amount of food security we have in this nation is really embarrassing.
Yeah, it's amazing. We don't even need food stamps anymore.
Huh.
That's why we're all up in arms about getting rid of Medicare and Medicaid.
I mean,
food stamps, welfare.
who
We don't
even
need-
uses this?
Nobody uses that,
Nobody.
Johnny, because the war on poverty was declared on January 8th, 1964. So clearly, it has to be over.
I mean, that's a long time ago. That's a long time for a war.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to figure out that problem. Like, just have some of the billionaires give some of their money away.
So, so out of this proclamation from Lyndon B. Johnson, the poverty rate of the United States at that time was 19%, which is
That's pretty high.
Pretty high. That's actually really pretty high. He did create the Office of Economic Opportunity, and that was basically allowed the local areas to utilize federal funds. So it's supposed to be designed for the individual states and local territories.
Is that like soup kitchen type stuff?
Kind of, yeah.
Or funds
It's
for
like,
that
here's the
type
federal
of thing?
fund. This is the office that's going to manage those federal funds that we're giving you. Out of that comes Head Start. That program gets
Okay.
created, and Job Corps that gets created.
So some good stuff came
So
from that.
yeah, it's some decent stuff that did come from it. Poverty rate did drop from 19% to an average of 11 to 15%, which is where it is now.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, sure. We're still
I mean-
hovering between 11 to 15% in any given year, but yes, sure. In 70 years, we kind of made it. And our last big thing, William Frederick Cody